So it's my privilege to welcome someone who is at the very forefront, of what is happening, and that's Julian Chan. Julian is the co-founder and head of public affairs for an organization called Hongkongers in Britain, so HKIB. And they are the leading Hong Kong expat, diaspora and community building group, basically, in the UK. And their primary objective is to provide assistance, advice and support for the Hong Kong community. And HKIB work closely with the government. I know ministers speak to the team from HKIB. And so Julian can really help us tonight by providing a national overview of what's going on, and more importantly, what we can expect in the future. So can we just welcome my friend Julian?
Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much, first of all, to Mark for the very kind introduction and for welcoming me here. It's a really big pleasure to be with you all. It's been almost 2 years since the beginning of the BNO visa policy scheme, and quite a lot of Hong Kongers have come to the UK. So I would like to share with you a little bit about our work and kind of from a more national perspective, but also a little bit more, hopefully, on the ground as well. So as Mark rightly mentioned, that we are the first Hong Kong organization to have established since the introduction of the government BNO visa scheme, and we hope to consolidate the community of Hong Kongers, allowing British communities to understand better about the Hong Kongers stories, and provide assistance and support in the best way that we can, so that could help the Hong Kong community settle and integrate and hopefully make a positive contribution to the UK society. So our wider aims, if you like, are also to safeguard the rights of Hong Kongers who are not necessarily only coming through the BNO visa route. For example, we know that there are a number who are seeking asylum or with, let's say, unclear immigration status who need protection, and also those who are underrepresented Hong Kongers who need to reach out for help from the society to help them integrate better. So to inform and also, as I say, share with society about the culture and community of Hong Kongers, so to promote this kind of understanding, racial harmony and integration that would build, Hong Kongers' understanding also of British society. So to put our work, sorry. Oh, yes, sorry. Can you hear me better now? Apologies. So yes, to put our work in kind of more of a perspective, it's probably best to visualize our work in kind of two pillars. The first one is really our community work. So we are quite fortunate to be amongst one of the 47 organizations around the UK to provide support in welcoming Hong Kongers in the UK, and we launched a UK-wide community project known as Mission PERM, so PERM, and they stand for P for encouraging participation in local community life, E for facilitating employment, R for building community relationships, and M for safeguarding mental health and well-being. So we have a team of 24 members who are located across different regions or nations of the UK, and I'm quite happy that we do have one in the Southwest. Thank you very much. Brilliant. Southwest, unfortunately, she couldn't be with us tonight. Her name is Lorena. Lorena is based in Swindon, but she is running all over the Southwest to provide kind of on-ground activities. But I'll go on a little bit more. So we work very closely, as Mark said, with different actors, including the government, and also something called the Welcoming Hubs, which you may have heard a little bit about. And these are called the Strategic Migration Partnerships, which are hosting the welcoming hubs for Hong Kongers. So they allow us to co-develop the community projects and activities to welcome Hong Kongers. So to begin with, we can talk a little bit more about participation in local life. So we provide a casework inquiry service, which is run by 2 members, to effectively address any kind of incoming inquiries, anything that you can think of, and so to allow people to have a better idea of what to expect before, for example, before they depart for the UK and once they arrive. So we produce kind of 2 guides. It's a practical life in UK guide in 2 parts. One is a kind of a flow chart, which allow people to, as I say, understand what to expect, and then once they arrive, the things that they should start applying, start registering, and so on. And also we've produced a booklet which is kind of encompasses stories of Hong Kongers to hopefully allow them to allow British communities to understand better about Hong Kongers' stories. Second part is on mental health. So we're providing kind of mental health emotional support. So next one, please. Yes, so these are the 4 kind of strategic focuses. And 2 more slides, if you may, please. There will be one on mental health. And as I say, we provide emotional support service, which includes chat, well-being, text and helpline service. And that's it. Thank you. We provide, we handle cases. We provide one-to-one informal well-being chat sessions and develop psychoeducation events. Next, please. Thank you. And then there is, so these are our outputs. And next one, please. So for employment, we are facilitating we are facilitating employment opportunities by providing career workshops, seminars, and CV clinics, group advice, as well as one-to-one sessions. And we have an employment info webpage. So, and we produced a booklet educating Hong Kongers about how to find a job in the UK, labour rights, and kind of dispute settlement and taxation. Next 2, please. Sorry. Yep. And another one. And the next one. And finally, yes, outreach. So we're providing webinars, seminars, workshops, small group discussions, community forums, sporting activities, local tours and visits to try to build this community relationship and foster the understanding between Hong Kongers and locals. Next one, please. So in total, we have about 11, next one, sorry. Yeah. And another one. Yep. So far we've served about 11,000 Hong Kongers. Well, some of them have arrived, but some of them are still looking to come. And we handle quite a lot of enquiries. So we have a full team, and I can send these slides to you afterwards as well. So if you can go down the list, just these are just kind of next one, and next one, and next one. Great. And yes, we do have a few delivery partners as well who we work with very closely to deliver for example here, Scotland, but previous slide, sorry, there's one on employment support. We work with an organisation called Renaissance in providing these employability workshops and one-to-one sessions, and these are all free, providing these services for people to attend. 2 more slides, if you may, please. Thank you. And the next one. Great. And yes, these are the 4 consortium partners we work with. Next one, please. Great. Our other project, which we launched earlier this year, is called Project Haven, and this is funded by the Trust of London rather than by the central government to provide support primarily for Hong Kongers who are not protected by the BNO visa route. And by this, as I say earlier, we're referring to asylum seekers and those with, let's say, unclear immigration status. So the project was really to identify underrepresented, vulnerable and disadvantaged Hong Kongers arriving in the UK who need help. We try to educate Hong Kongers on the UK's asylum policy. We're not providing immigration or advice, but we would like to empower them to let them understand about their rights before or when they arrive in the UK, to avoid them being potentially undocumented migrants or victims of exploitation, for example. And we want to develop a local support network and advice network for this group of Hong Kongers in collaboration with community groups on the ground and the services that they provide across the UK. So we have one person who is providing well-being information, signposting, inquiries and referral service, and so far we've had about 40 or 50 odd asylum cases who also need accommodation support. So next please, thank you. So I've spoken about our first pillar of work, which is very much focused on community kind of activities. But then we also have a second pillar, which is very much focused on research and publications, because a lot of information still needs to be understood and found out about Hong Kongers. So this is just a list, essentially, of the things that we've been, of publications we've come up with. I won't bore you with too many of them, but essentially, for example, for the first one is called Coming for Hope. So we try to allow Hong Kongers, the British community, to understand what are the issues, challenges, needs, and trends where they need support. For example, from that, we found out that accommodation, mental health support, employment, and these are like the most pressing issues. And then we worked with a couple of other organizations as well to come up with joint recommendations for the Greater London Authority to support how best to support Hong Kongers arriving. And then we kind of went a little bit further in terms of a deep dive, in terms of housing. We came up with a brief via a consultation, and then where exactly are they going to come to live in the UK? For example, we found out that Bristol is amongst, I think, is the top 5 in terms of most popular locations, and from that estimate, we think that there should be at least 5,000 to 6,000 Hong Kongers who've arrived in Bristol alone, also in Swindon and Exeter, etc. And then we found out about employment needs, what are the perceived issues, what are the actual issues of them seeking employment, and we try to, present these not just to the government, but also to other stakeholders, other community organizations, which are trying to provide the set of services to support Hong Kongers. And our latest one is a survey report on mental health, which is called Mental Health is a Part of Myself, and we did that in collaboration with a scholar to find out about the mental health needs, and that is a very big kind of part of what we are doing. Next slide, please. And this is kind of our final and the latest project that we have started, which is called Initiative SAFE. And this is funded by an organization called Unbound Philanthropy, which will draw on our previous experiences of research, publications to continue finding out about the needs of Hong Kongers. So we've just launched the one on education needs, because many Hong Kongers will need support in terms of either primary, secondary, or even tertiary, and we're trying to find out about the issues that they face, for example, with school places, with tuition fees, with student loans, etc. So this will last for about half a year. The next one that we'll do is on personal safety and community security, because many Hong Kongers don't necessarily still feel very safe when they're in the UK because of the circumstances they've left Hong Kong 3 years ago, or even quite recently. So we would like to know what are their concerns if they have, family, friends back in Hong Kong. Are they worried about going back or coming here? What shall we do about that? And then the third one is going to be on vulnerable groups. So we're going to identify. We don't know who exactly they are. We've heard stories, but we would like to quantify that in more kind of substantial terms. For example, we know that there are victims of domestic violence, those with disabilities, special needs, elderly, LGBT plus, etc. So we would like to do that. And finally, we'll be doing one on social integration, because by the time we'll be doing this research, it will be around halfway point of the BNO visa policy scheme, which means that the 5-year scheme, 2.5 years, we would like to know how well Hong Kong people have integrated. If not, why not? If they're choosing to leave for other places, why is that the case? So I think that's mostly this is the information that you can find online, mostly for the work that we are doing. I think finally, maybe I would like to end by kind of giving maybe a little bit of advice on my thoughts, at least, on how best, I guess, community groups, faith groups, etc., in particular, could support Hong Kongers. Maybe 2 or 3 things. The first would be mental health and well-being. I know that there are lots of very good support available, but a lot of Hong Kongers still need this kind of counseling and well-being support to help them settle and integrate, and just having that initial support. They may not need it in the very long term, but this is a very big part of, I think, what community groups can do. The second thing would be understanding the trends, needs, issues and challenges of Hong Kongers. So feel free to reach out to anyone, any Hong Konger or Hong Kong families that you know, and ask them about what exactly is going on in their minds. They may not be very open at first, but after a little bit of warm up, I'm sure they're very happy to share their personal stories. And also, thirdly, just to help us advertise and share the events, because we do hold quite a lot of them on ground across the Southwest region. So thank you so much, and thank you again, Mark.
Great. Thank you for taking us through that. I know that's a lot of information for us to digest, but a number of people across the diocese have often contacted me with particular questions, often to do with signposting. So again, what HKIB have done on their website, and it really is brilliant, is create the different categories so you can quickly find the information that you need and the signposting that you need to help those people. So really just a very valuable resource. And just as Julian said, he flagged mental health with us. And and if you think about the trauma of leaving family, I was speaking to some children just a few days ago, and they were really sad to leave their Pawpaw and Gong Gong, their grandparents, behind in Hong Kong, and not having that family support that many people have. How do we cope? And that's something we as a church, as churches, can do. But I was wondering, while we have Julian with us tonight, and he does work, as you can see, at quite a high level, collaborating with many different organizations, do we have any questions? And I have a roving mic. Any questions you'd like to ask Julian about anything he said, or anything else as well?
Thank you very much. This is just an extension of a practical question relating to a lot of the practical resources that you're very helpfully offering there. And it is all those sort of resources, isn't it, as sort of communities, that if we can lay our hands on or know where to look for practical resources when people are asking for those things or just have questions, at least there are some resources available. So just to confirm, you produce a wonderful range of practical resources, booklets that will guide and help folk and give some signposting for them. So for us as churches, it would be, I guess, useful for us to make sure that we have some of those resources at hand whenever we and are they all downloadable from the website, is that?
Yes, we're actually at the stage of just finalizing and producing them, but once they are done, we'll put them online, and we're more than happy to share some with you so that you can distribute to your audiences.
That's great. It's just precisely thinking of that thing about a lot of people coming over and literally with those huge initial questions, and it is that first signpost, isn't it? And where do you do that? So if you at least hand them a booklet or talk them through things, and then they can be signposted from that. That's just fantastic.
Absolutely.
Yeah, okay.
Well, UKHK has also produced, another organisation which Mark mentioned earlier, has produced a wonderful booklet which is targeted for children, in order for them to understand about life in the UK, what should they expect, and that's a really nicely done booklet. And I think they are, if you go onto the website, and you can order the booklets as well.
So which organisation?
UKHK, UK Welcome Churches. They come under the UK Welcome Churches, so they kind of utilise the church network to help people on the ground.
That's brilliant. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
We've had you might not know, we've had a kind of number of Hong Kongers join us as a church congregation, at 20 or so in the last 2 or 3 months, 3 months maybe, and it's really a wonderful addition to our congregation. But just on the question of the language, I wonder if you could say, well, clearly many of them have learned English from an early age in Hong Kong, but there's, we've been told just anecdotally when chatting to them, they struggle sometimes with understanding people because we talk too fast, maybe. At the moment we have, when the Bible lesson reading is given, we then have someone come up and read it in Cantonese, one of the community come up and read it as well. Have you got any advice on how to approach that issue of language? Do you think we should be providing more material for in English for them, or what?
Yeah.
Thanks.
Well, we began by actually trying to provide free English lessons via volunteering effort. Quite unfortunately, the provision of English support very much depends on the local councils, because these are not the budget, the support doesn't come to us organizations on the ground, but rely much more on the trickling of funding. So it depends on how well the councils advertise this service. We're talking about ESOL, ESOL, so English for speakers of other languages. This is the most targeted support that they can reach out for. Another thing is that Hong Kong BNO visa holders have a clause which is called no recourse to public funds, which means that they are not able to access public services, for example, job center support or public housing. And this is this policy was decided 3 years ago, so that they have to prove themselves financially capable to settle in, for the first 6 months at least. But we are speaking very much to different welcoming hubs, to the strategic migration partnerships, and also to the government, and they are well aware of this issue, that there isn't enough publicity about where Hong Kongers can access support. Some of them have done a better job than others. For example, in the southeast, they've come up with a list of ESOL course providers, and we are also trying to advertise those which are providing them for free on our website, on our social media, and we encourage people to go for them, because language is so important for people to have the first step to and as you rightly say, but the biggest challenge for them is not necessarily so much about reading or writing, but it's about speaking and listening, and the key is about getting confidence in that. So I think what would be very, very helpful is for communities like yourselves to, if there is any way to organize some sort of, let's say, speaking clubs, speaking classes, just in small groups, conversation clubs, these would be, these would help people a lot in gaining that confidence. So
sorry, could you just clarify, did you say they are not able to go to a job centre for 6 months?
That's correct. So, well,
So what are they supposed to do?
Yes, that's a good question. Not even for 6 months. It's actually for the entire duration of their BNO visa period. So this was, the government's decision back then that, Hong Kongers are generally, expected to be able to live and, and contribute. So therefore we are, the effort very much, the burden, if you like, very much lies on organizations like ourselves, and also working with other organizations to provide this kind of CV clinics or one-to-one employment support, which is, it's a shame that it doesn't come from the kind of wider government level, but at least I suppose that the fact that it comes down to us, because hopefully we have a better kind of more direct understanding of what's happening on the ground, so we'll be able to tailor our services a little bit more, accordingly. So hopefully that's what we can do.
Yeah, any more questions? Yeah, just to add to that last point, I've realized that not many people have been aware, just as Julian explained, that Hong Kongers came across, but a lot of the services that we would ordinarily enjoy they're actually excluded from them for the course of their BNO visa. So there's been much talk amongst the community of, well, what do we do? How do we access even hospitals and treatment and things like that? Because they're meant to prove a certain high threshold financially to come in. And that, again, Julian then explained, and this was new to me, but there are many more Hong Kongers coming in who perhaps didn't satisfy, the tests that the government want for people to come in, but they're coming in anyways. So again, there's another level of Hong Kongers who are really excluded from things and really need our help. And I would imagine there'll be more of them. But one question, Julian, would be really helpful. But there are also those coming from Hong Kong who have, in Hong Kong, been targeted by the government for their involvement in the protests. Could you as much as you can, share about that, and also make us aware of the situation. And if someone comes into our church who is in that situation, how we can help.
Sure. Just very quickly to just add to the point that yes, indeed they are not eligible to access others most public services except for healthcare, because they do pay an immigration health surcharge as part of the visa, so they can access that once they have arrived. But for the others, you're right, they don't have access to that. Indeed, we think that there could be as many as 500 or more people who are actually, seeking asylum or in unclear immigration status. You can find on the government's website that I think officially we're talking about 140 Hongkongers who've sought asylum in the UK so far. Indeed, the resources for this has been very low, very thin in general. As you can see, that our project to support such groups are not from the central government, because they have been very much focused on BNOs rather than for younger Hongkongers. One thing to notice is that since 2 days ago, there will be a kind of a wave of younger Hongkongers who will come, because previously they need to have both parents who have BNO status to apply with them before they can come. Now, they can come, even if there's one parent with a BNO, and they can apply independently. So we do see that there will be more younger Hongkongers who come. And if you come across asylum seekers or people, with unclear immigration statuses, we would very much encourage you to kind of reach out to our service for Project Haven, but also there are 2 or 3 other kind of more notable community groups which are helping asylum seekers. One is called Hong Kong Aid, HKIB. You can also find them on the website, and they're providing, for example, emergency accommodation and also some sort of food bank services, and they're doing quite a good job, building that community. For us, it's much more in terms of casework, answering the inquiries and signposting, referring, but we do understand that there is the need to build this and consolidate this kind of community, so that we'll be working on that. But thank you very much.
And as you can hear, Julian and his team are so up to date on the latest changes, such as the one 2 days ago. So really, I can't, encourage you enough to keep tracking the HKIB website, their information sources. And as Julian said, one of his colleagues, is it Lorena?
Lorena, that's correct, Lorena Tam.
Lorena Tam is in our part of the UK. And after this session through the Eventbrite, I will send one email with all of these details on, so that you can access. But if we don't have any more questions, can we give a warm thank you to Julian?
Thank you. And one thing to say, I've brought some leaflets, which you're very welcome to share with anyone. So I'll be at the back. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Julian.